Hello, everybody. My name's Darren. I'm, I live on the west coast of Canada on Vancouver Island in the Cascadia, together with Sean and close to Patricia. But yeah, I'm in the Front Range right now. Right now I'm in between Boulder and Denver. But yeah, it's been really fun being here, being part of the events going on, hanging out with Benjamin and jamming on knowledge infrastructure and civic tech. So yeah, really excited to share what we've been hearing and learning and building on. And I'll try to share my screen here, have a little slide presentation. Let's see. Are you seeing it okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so today it's a bit of a practitioner's report from building knowledge commons infrastructure across and within bioregions, and talking a bit about what we're learning, what we're working on, and where it connects to what Open Civics is building. So yeah, just a little map here showing where I live in the Pacific Northwest. And this is approximately where me and Benjamin are right now on the Front Range in Colorado. And yeah, this is a map from One Earth that's showing the different bioregions in North America. So this work ties together a few threads. One of them is bioregional organizing, and there's a really palpable movement in the Pacific Northwest where I live around bioregional organizing. I work with Regenerate Cascadia and other groups that are really pioneering a lot of this work. I'm in the Landscape Hub Cultivator with them right now, and I'm co-founding the Greater Victoria Seed Group through their Landscape Hub Cultivator program, which is really amazing. It's bringing together 10 different groups throughout Cascadia to learn together. And one of the topics is around how we can, share learnings and knowledge with each other. And yeah, a lot of that is mapping. So we're doing like mapping workshops and creating infrastructure to, map out the different solutions and problems and assets and all kinds of things, and kind of using that to start creating a knowledge commons. Another thread is knowledge infrastructure. So me and Sean have been working. We have a company together called Symbiocene Labs, and we have been working for the past year or so with Regen Network to enhance them with knowledge management infrastructure. So we've been working with a protocol called KOI, which stands for Knowledge Organizational Infrastructure from Block Science, to do that, as well as with a lot of other tools, AI models, and so yeah, and this connects and is meant to support bioregional organizing as well. But yeah, we're learning what it takes to make knowledge systems actually work at scale with that project, which is great. And then the third thread that's kind of being woven in here is that I'm part of this bioregional knowledge community of practice, and with Bill Bowie and Simon Grant and some other people. And so yeah, this is a community of practice to research and develop ways of doing this knowledge commoning work of looking at practices that are happening in place and context, and abstracting those into patterns and protocols that can then be shared across different bioregions and re-implemented in those new contexts of place. So yeah, knowledge already exists. I think that one of the main challenges is just coordination, and just kind of bridging silos and sharing what's relevant. And often you find communities doing nearly identical things, and they just don't know about each other. So we have a knowledge problem, we have a coordination problem. Traditional platforms can't solve it because the knowledge is distributed, place-based, and governed by different communities with different norms. And that's why we say knowledge commoning as a verb. It's an ongoing negotiation about who contributes, what's shared, and on whose terms. And so things like, data sovereignty and privacy and security are structural requirements. And so, this is a map of where I live, specifically in Victoria, and how it's part of this larger bioregion, kind of defined by was the Salish Sea. So it's part of the ocean where different rivers flow. And like I live in Canada, and below is the US. So it's this whole system that's been cut in half arbitrarily between two different countries. So that's kind of a wound that we're trying to heal. And yeah, just another slide about mapping, which is, I think, kind of one of the kind of leading, it's a kind of a process that leads into knowledge commoning very well. So just community, like there's, community mapping projects, collaborative, ways of mapping. And there's different, I like the concept of an atlas, like being able to just have many different layers of, language. Like this is a map of indigenous languages. This is a map of the disappearing herring spawn sites. So yeah, I like to think of, this work as kind of, well, of course, being in service of place and kind of enhancing place with sensory and cognitive capabilities. This is a slide that kind of points towards a bigger vision of how we can support the flows of value in place. So it's this idea that, knowledge commoning, like the knowledge aspect, supports the ability to create and create flows of value. So it's kind of like the knowledge is a requirement for being able to do things like bioregional sustainable economics. And this is just like an initial snapshot of the network that we're discovering in the place that we live in Victoria. And yeah, you can just see that there's a real emphasis on relationships and relationality. And this is why I really like knowledge graphs, because they treat relationships as first-class citizens. And so like really emphasizing the connectedness and relationality in a way that's directly kind of baked into the knowledge infrastructure, I think is really powerful. This is a slide, this is like very kind of experimental, but just kind of looking at like this through as like a pattern language. So trying to like find this kind of elegant set of patterns of bioregional knowledge commoning. For example, one concept or pattern that I like is holonic nesting. So kind of mapping the pattern of knowledge coming onto the pattern of bioregioning itself, so that you're doing this like fractally scaled nesting of knowledge commoning in a way that maps onto the fractally nested scales of bioregions and ecoregions. And so just kind of like mapping the knowledge infrastructure onto the way that the land is actually organized. And yeah, and this is another kind of very experimental slide, but it's kind of proposing that, there's kind of this relationship between pattern languages and protocols and like implementations. So I've been kind of thinking of the pattern language as more of like the human layer, the social and governance patterns, and then the protocols as like the more like kind of machine readable, like computational layer that's a little bit more formal. Um, and but yeah, trying to keep it thin, and then at the bottom you'd have like the implementation profiles, or I think what OpenService would call a Civic stack. So just like an implementation of the protocol. And then this has been a fun experiment. So I don't know if you guys might have heard of OpenClaw, but it's this new agentic um, framework, and it's really taking the world by storm. People are losing their minds over it, and I made one for the Salish Sea as like a knowledge commenting agent, and yeah, I made a website for it. You're free to check it out. It has a chat bot. It has its own court site, has a knowledge graph, and it has just some initial information. Um, and so I'm really interested, and I know Benjamin and Sean, and like this has been a big theme this whole past week. It's like how we can kind of steer the developments of agentic AI into service of bioregional knowledge commenting. And so I think that this is really interesting, and something that I'd really love to explore with everybody is like how we can, use these tools. Like, I think that one of the very low hanging fruits is around, transcribing audio, oral histories, interviews, meetings, and processing those, into structured data, and looking, kind of extracting out questions and claims and evidence, building discourse graphs and debate maps. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this. Again, this just kind of hints at something I was mentioning just before about kind of mapping the structure of the knowledge commenting onto the structure of the land. So, oh yeah, this should say a Salish Sea here, but the idea is that you'd have like agents or agents and knowledge comments at different scales. And also, it's like we have personal knowledge management practices ourselves, and like I'm developing my own personal knowledge management agent. And so the idea is that you can be sharing knowledge at different scales. Like I can share knowledge directly with Sean. You can, I'm contributing to a knowledge commons at my city level. Same with Sean. You know, that higher level, knowledge commons. It could, perhaps be like a swarm of different knowledge commenting agents. That includes humans. That includes, AI agents like OpenClaws, and then these are, scaling up into like Salish Sea, Cascadia, and then, Cascadia is sharing knowledge with the Front Range here in Colorado. Not going to go into this slide in detail, but it's just like kind of trying to map some of the patterns of bioregional knowledge commenting onto like the Open Civics framework, and kind of looking at some of the shared structure. And yeah, it's some of these things like, holonic nesting, emergence, kind of like a thin protocol layer, pattern languaging. And finally, yeah, it's just I want to call everybody to, if you're interested, come and research and build this together. We put together a GitHub with some initial ideas. It also includes the code for my OpenClaw bioregional knowledge commenting agent, and which is cool because actually, so I made another agent for Sean, and for his city in Cowichan Valley, and now like mine and his are like talking and sharing knowledge using the Koi protocol. So the idea is that these agents could actually help automate and streamline the cultivating of knowledge and as well as the sharing of knowledge. So actually, if you set one up yourself, then it could be part of like a network that's starting to share knowledge. But again, still very experimental. But I think really, really exciting. And we would like to, yeah, we're working on a pilot project between the Front Range and Cascadia. And we're looking for more bioregions to join. So if you're part of a different one, then we'd love to have you collaborate, because we need bioregions to test out patterns, governance perspectives, indigenous co-designers. And yeah, call to action: read the pattern language and tell us what's missing, bring a bioregion to the pilot, help co-design the rights licensing framework, and contribute to the patterns to the Open Protocol Library, our first concrete delivery to Open Civics. Thank you. And I don't know if, Sean, do you want to add anything?
No, thanks, Darren. You did great. Yeah, my power's out here, so I'm on mobile. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, Darren. Thank you for sharing.
Super cool. And I see a lot of some questions coming in the chat. Also some invitations into some potentials for collaboration that we could talk about as well. I think we're slightly reshuffling the schedule behind the scenes since we lost some space with the tech difficulties in the beginning. So would love to have some focused Q&A here. I think Rather asked a really great question around the fuzzy overlapping boundaries. And I wonder if you could talk about, Darren, how that kind of holonic fractal structure could be represented through repositories that perhaps have kind of polygon geotag coordinates that overlap with other knowledge commons, and how COI might be able to facilitate some of that kind of cross holon communication, so that we don't have to draw hard boundaries around like one canonical knowledge commons, but see it more of like this peer-to-peer federation that COI makes possible. I wonder if you could talk about that.
Yeah, sure. and I kind of think about like commons themselves as like overlapping boundaries of like, you know, in between like purely private and purely public, where it's like I have like you have different people or groups that are contributing to a commons of knowledge. And so, you know, and yeah, like these commons will themselves like overlap with each other, and just like with the groups that we're in, right? Like we're in different social groups, and those groups overlap. Like, you know, you're in different groups with the same people, and so I think that just mapping the knowledge infrastructure to the way that that works, like those, you know, the same kind of, and yeah, like it's a huge, you know, question, and it's really important to think about like the, you know, the permissioning and you know, the privacy, and I think this is still being worked out, but I think we can learn a lot from the way that we you know, just kind of have like agreements and permissions when we enter into groups in terms of like what's being shared, consent, and yeah, and so, but I think in general, the idea is that, you know, this kind of knowledge commoning infrastructure would support, you know, like just, you know, commons or like pools of data that that is going to overlap with other pools of data, and which is important actually. And, you know, like in terms of just the way that, you know, the land and culture is organized. Like I like that the map that I showed of the language, like the indigenous languages. There's like there's overlap. It's not just like a arbitrary, you know, border or boundary. So yeah, like in, you know, if you look at nature and culture, you're going to see overlapping borders, and I think that, you know, our knowledge infrastructure should accommodate that as well.
And I know we've also talked about the indexing process of these knowledge commons and the way that those overlapping boundaries could be reflected in an index, and then potentially Koi could help to, a combination of these agents and Koi could help surface, here are the related knowledge commons either in your bioregion or connected to the polygon where you've defined your knowledge commons. And so I wonder if you could talk about a little bit more about the agent side and the Koi side. I think the Koi architecture, it would be helpful for people to understand the kind of listening events and the sort of the way that supports federation. And then maybe also if you could talk about what kind of system prompting you're engineering into your early OpenClaw experiment, and how you're thinking about how do we ensure alignment with these AI agents that might be playing a really critical role in facilitating this exchange of knowledge, but how do we balance the kind of trade-offs that come with giving that kind of agency to an artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, that reminds me of when I made my OpenClaw agent. I gave it the React like website and constitution, and yeah, like that's one of the ways. I mean, yeah, like so with OpenClaw, it's like it has like a soul file, and it has some of these like system prompt files that you can configure to give it like a certain like personality and kind of like constitution or personality. And so yeah, that's kind of what I did with mine, and yeah, just kind of made it tailored to gave it some information about just kind of some meta information about knowledge commoning. But yeah, I'm not like like an evangelist for like OpenClaw. I think it's like there's also the security, of course, is like one of the biggest challenges. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do to get it to work, but just like the fact that it's kind of become such a thing, I think it's like it kind of these are like catalysts for kind of opportunities of how we can harness like the capabilities and the energy and momentum of these movements. So I think it is really interesting. And then yeah, in regards to kind of Koi and how that works, like so it's a way to, well, it's called knowledge organizational infrastructure. I've kind of heard it described as like duct tape and WD-40 for knowledge management. So it's kind of, I like to also think of it as like this like mycelial substrate that is useful for like connecting to different sources of knowledge, being able to like organize that and then like share it. And so you can, and then it's also, it works kind of in this like holonically fractally nested way that I was describing before, where like you have a network of nodes that from the outside looks and behaves like a single node. So you'd have like one node that's kind of responsible for being the interface to other networks. So from another network's perspective, you're just interfacing with like a single node, but that node kind of is representing a whole network or swarm of nodes. And and within a network, it's like stewarding or commoning some data, some knowledge, and then when it's updated, when it changes, then it sends a signal out to the other networks, being like, oh well, I've added something new or changed something, and then but it's not imposing those other networks change their data. It's just sending a signal, and it can send like an envelope, like a signed envelope of the actual change. And then those other networks can decide themselves, oh, I see the signal, and I'll update my own knowledge based on that update. So it's kind of has like a property, I guess, of like stigmergy, which I really like, and like the holarchic kind of fractally nested structure. So yeah, it's something that we've been exploring and working with. I mean, I think there's other kind of protocols that could be used as well. So it's not something that we're wedded to, but I think it's really interesting, and I think it's I think it's really useful for doing this like kind of like scaled knowledge commoning, and I've also been exploring using it for my own personal knowledge management as well. And we've done a lot of work with kind of like building on the protocol to be able to do a lot of like the processing of the data. So like processing it into a knowledge graph, chunking it, embedding it, making it accessible through chat bots and MCP servers, and like automating, podcasts and content and things like that. So we've done a lot of work with it for our work with Regen Network. And now we're like, oh, well, we could probably leverage a lot of this for the bioregional knowledge commoning.
And just for folks who aren't familiar with some of that terminology, like chunking and embedding, this is another crazy hack that is, I think, making knowledge commoning so much more possible. You have COI functioning as these kind of bidirectional pipes that really support federation. And then part of the way that AI can access information is through something called vector store databases, which is basically just a way of taking information and turning it into this kind of semantic graph that the AI can really understand and work with. And so one of the biggest challenges for knowledge commoning efforts prior to AI, in my experience, has been the need to converge structured data approaches and have kind of a shared ontology that our data can kind of pool into and make that handshake really easy. And so getting each group to align on the same structured data was kind of the biggest hurdle to creating these kind of pipes that support the connectivity of these different knowledge bases. And so now with COI and with AI, it does seem like new horizons are opening up in terms of our ability to share information and store information in this kind of AI native data structure that could potentially allow someone to share information without having to conform to someone else's schema in the structured data. Is that an accurate kind of description of the role of chunking and embedding stuff, Darren?
Yeah, it's just a really powerful AI primitive that it's used for for chatbots and used for like similarity search. So semantic similarity search, like looking at bodies of text, pieces of text, and then kind of looking at the semantic similarity of them. And so yeah, that's how it works for like chatbots. Is you're just kind of based on the prompt, you're like, okay, well, what is the chunks of knowledge that are semantically relevant to the prompt, and then kind of the LLM uses that to formulate an answer. And yeah, in regards to like ontologies, and like this is something that Benjamin and I have talked about in terms of like wanting to support a plurality of ontology and worldview, like more generally, and like not trying to impose any specific ontology or schema or worldview. And so yeah, looking at how we can still kind of create like interoperability and or translatability or standardization, but doing it in a way that is like not imposing in terms of like what the ontology is. And there's also like a concept of ontological commoning that we're exploring in the community of practice. And so yeah, I think that's like another kind of like frontier of this work, is like how we can create like a commons around the ontology itself.